Dialectical behavior therapy was created in the 1980s by Marsha Linehan in Seattle, Washington.
Today, DBT is taught all over the world.
We're two therapists who believe everyone can benefit from DBT skills.
I'm Kate.
I'm Michelle.
And this is DBT and Me.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
We have such a special... Yes! You guys just heard her. We have a guest today. Our first ever podcast guest. I'm so excited. Yeah, so guys, this is Sarah. Sarah's with us today.
Hello.
Hello! Yay, I'm so excited. I feel like I'm going to say that about 5 times before I get going.
Like 7 times today. Normally I have a hard time getting you to say it once.
I know. All the hellos, all the excitement in the world. So yeah, Sarah Dionne is with us. She's a yoga psychotherapist and a life coach. And she's based in Middleborough, Massachusetts. She founded a practice called Whole Health Collaborative. And she is awesome, you guys. She works with people all over the country, specifically moms who are feeling stuck, overwhelmed by life, and feeling anxious, and just need some extra support. And she also works with women who are struggling with like body image issues and eating disorder stuff. And she's here with us today to be our first ever guest. Yippee! Yeah. Sarah, is there anything more you want to say about yourself before we get into this episode and we start, grilling you and asking you all the questions?
I don't know. I think that pretty much covers it. I guess, just explaining yoga psychotherapy just a little bit. What I mean by that is, I'm a traditional licensed psychotherapist. I'm also a certified yoga instructor. And I've been practicing yoga for I don't know how many years, maybe 16 or 17. And I've been a psychotherapist for a number of years, like 7 or 8 years. And I decided that after practicing in the field for a number of years that it seemed to me that the body and spirit were very much missing from the traditional mental health world. So that's when I started incorporating aspects of yoga into my practice. And when I say with yoga psychotherapy, what I mean by that is not just asana, which is the postures. I mean all aspects of yoga, which there are 8 limbs. I'm not going to list all 8 limbs, but it's a very broad tradition and really, really complements psychotherapy very well. And also really complements DBT. So,
nice. Oh, we're so going to be asking you about that.
So it complements those things very well, which is when I saw your podcast, I was like, oh, I think this would be a good complement to you guys, because I think that it goes well with what you guys do.
Awesome. Very exciting. Well, I think that actually leads pretty well into the first question we had, which was basically what got you interested in DBT? Where did that start for you? And you just sort of explained how you got interested in yoga for your psychotherapy, but were you a practicing yoga instructor or other things before you incorporated it into your practice? So just, I guess, what led you to DBT and what led you to yoga?
So yoga started long before my psychotherapy practice. Okay. I'm also in recovery for an eating disorder. And after I went to a treatment program in Florida when I was 25, that's when I discovered yoga. I'm 41 now. So that's when I discovered it and began practicing it and using it to begin healing myself. And then when I was 29 is when I got into my master's program for psychotherapy. So yoga came well before that. And as I went through my master's program, I was one of the very few people that focused a lot on spirituality. I did a lot I was one of the only people I was one of like a few people that took like spirituality and social work. I interned at a hospice. I did a lot of studying on grief and spirituality, and like, so that was always kind of my thing. And that's very much attuned with yoga, which is a spiritual practice, not religious, spiritual. And then I was going along, and CBT was really big then. And I do like CBT, but there are certain people that it just doesn't work very well for. And I would struggle with that with certain people. Certain people would thrive with it, and certain people would battle with it. And I kept hearing about DBT, like people would mention it, and this was like, you know, my early 30s, like people would mention it, and it started really becoming a bigger part of various practices, and different therapists I knew were using it, and I was like, what is it? You know, dialectical behavior therapy. What the heck is that?
What is it? That's a good question.
So I think I was like in my early 30s, and I just started looking at workbooks. I started, you know, just being curious about how it could help clients that weren't responding to other types of stuff we were doing. And as I dove into DBT, it became very clear how side by side DBT and yoga walk. Like they are so similar. And because of that, because I'm already so much invested in the yoga traditions, DBT was just natural. It was just something like, oh, this is fabulous. So I just like, this is wonderful. And I just started using it. I I haven't taken any courses on it. I have just been kind of self-taught in it, and directed people to, you know, various skills, and worked on these skills with them, gone through workbooks. I've done groups. The groups that I've done on DBT have been focused on addiction, and both men and women who are facing addiction and mental health issues, especially a lot of people with bipolar and, of course, borderline personality, which is obviously what it was made for. But so it just kind of happened organically. It was this organic process.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And I mean, I guess I wonder about, like, too, with having all these different skill sets and, you know, this combination of DBT and yoga, how you said that they just really, you started noticing a lot of crossover and maybe some similarities with them. Like, so how does this work look with clients? Like, when you're working with a client, is it that they maybe are doing yoga with you, but then you're sprinkling in DBT, or is it like they're doing DBT with you and sprinkling some yoga, or I don't know, just like how does that combination look in practice, like in real life, when people are maybe interested in combining the two?
It's totally individual. It is. So DBT just usually naturally integrates itself into most of the work that I do. And with yoga, we do postures, but that's not a big part of what we do together. Oftentimes I will send someone home with homework, quote unquote. And that will be like one posture or two postures that they can do. And then along with the postures, there's a lot of insight and introspection that they can do in order to become more in touch with their mind, their subconscious mind, their, with DBT, the wise mind, getting in touch with that, what in yoga, the wise mind is called the solar plexus. So it's basically, both of them located in the same area, just different labels. So it's just this I allow the client to guide that, and it really see what it is that they are struggling with. So if someone is coming to me with anxiety issues, yoga is excellent for that, regarding the breathing and the meditation, which is all also
Totally.
DBT, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and there are skill sets of DBT that are entwined with yoga, but people just don't know. So, for instance, DBT talks a lot about, the distraction and the self-soothing before you go into the mindfulness and the radical acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So, in yoga, a lot of people struggle with it, or struggle with meditation, I should say, because they're trying to enter into meditation right after like an anxiety attack, or like in the middle of one, or they're having a really racy kind of day and they're trying to calm themselves down by using meditation, and then that just doesn't work. So for some people it does. Obviously, I can't generalize, but for people that deal with a lot of anxiety, typically doesn't work very well. In yoga, the whole point that they ever started doing asana which is postures, is yes, it was in order to improve the health of the body, but it was to get you worn out enough so you could do meditation. So it's basically it's distraction. So you got DBT distraction. So in yoga, you're doing the postures distraction. You're you're engaging the body. You're breathing. There's DBT, right? So you're doing all of those things, and then afterwards, when you're like worn out, depending on what type of yoga you were doing, you can sit down and relax your mind and relax your body and be with the moment. So it all works together, and you can find all those exact same things as you walk through DBT. So
very cool.
I guess to answer that question in like one little succinct, it's this organic.
Oh, we're not succinct at all.
My practice is very. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to like wrap it up in a little better way. Yeah, cut that out, please. Cut. So I guess to like sum it up, it's an organic process with each client, and I combine DBT with the elements of yoga, and often send people home with homework to do various strategies of DBT, and then various strategies of yoga that will help complement the issues that they're dealing with in psychotherapy. Nice. That's the best way that I can wrap it up.
I know. No, everything is as complicated as therapy can't be. No, look, you don't have to cut anything. No, we're ramblers, man.
Yeah, we ramble a lot.
We always take bets about, we're like, oh, this will be a short episode. Then we get to the end, we're like, only an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah. We definitely kept that short. I don't know. So you've sort of been answering this, so we'll see if there's sort of more to, I don't know, milk out of that idea, which is sort of, the combination of DBT and yoga working together. You were just talking to a lot, but have you seen any research around using those things together, or to your knowledge, are you kind of novel in putting those things together? Like, is that something that you've, I guess, seen any research on?
There is research on using yoga for mental health issues, right? There's plenty of research on using yoga for trauma, right, and healing trauma. Right here in Boston, there is one, Dr. what is his name? Vanderkolk. He is.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
I went to one of his.
Vanderkolk.
That's it. Yes. And he founded a trauma institute right here in Boston, and they practice trauma-focused or trauma-centered yoga there, and you can get certified in trauma-centered yoga. And so he's done a whole bunch of research on that, and how yoga impacts mental health. To combine the two together, I don't think there is any research, as far as I know. I haven't dug for that. But just placing DBT with yoga together, I don't think that's something that a lot of people are doing. I think that people are probably doing it accidentally. Right?
That makes sense, yeah.
Right. So I think that they are probably doing these wonderful things and just not labeling it. They're not.
So like people who are already into DBT might have a better into yoga.
Yes.
Than they know.
Yeah.
Because they already have some of those practices and stuff if they've been super into it. And vice versa. If someone's been super into yoga, they kind of have a door into DBT, right. It sounds like.
They just haven't labeled it. It doesn't have this nice little label on it that I'm mixing DBT with yoga. it's just naturally happening because they just kind of walk side by side.
Nice. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I really think that does. And when you were talking about a little bit ago, the concept of wise mind and how in yoga that idea shows up. Yeah, the idea of a wise mind, I think, recurs in many different types of therapy. It just goes under various other names.
Yeah.
But that concept of a wise mind is there in a lot of different
Though I like
realms,
that,
you could
Michelle. I
say.
feel like that's something we could, in a way, incorporate into teaching wise mind as a sort of kinetic way of connecting with your wise mind.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
that's
do like
something
that
we've really
idea.
considered before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How can you feel when you're in your wise mind, like in your
Yeah, or can you help
body?
get into it by doing stretches or movements or
Yeah.
things like that?
Absolutely. That's with yoga, you're engaging with the solar plexus. So there's the 7 chakras, and that's the 3rd chakra where the wise mind is, in the center of the abdomen, above the belly button, below the sternum. So that's where it's said to reside. Of course, I always kind of do this disclaimer that you don't need to believe in this kind of thing in order to benefit from it. You don't need to be a yogini or a yogi. Yogini's a girl yogi.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you don't need to be a yogini or a yogi to benefit from these things. You can just I'm sorry, my dog is.
No, you're fine.
I have an Australian Shepherd puppy, and so he's a little bit. Yeah, and I'm like, all right, don't go crazy right now, please.
My mom's dog is pregnant and is supposed to give birth this week, so there you go. Those are both brand new puppies I've ever seen in my life.
Oh. Well, he doesn't look like a puppy anymore. He's almost 6 months old, so he's.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He's a youngin'. He's a teenager.
Yeah. I forgot what I was talking about.
You don't have to believe in it.
Yeah, you don't have to
benefit
be into
from
it all the way.
You don't have to believe in it as a yogi or a yogini. You can just benefit from these things by connecting with your body, by connecting with different aspects of the mind. And if you are interested in the spirit, it does connect in that direction too. But you don't have to be. I always want to do that disclaimer because sometimes people see it as very woo-woo, and I want people to understand that you don't have to be woo-woo to benefit.
Yeah.
So,
well, and for me, I have like a very woo-woo therapist that's who I first heard about chakras from.
Yes,
from her. And at first I was very skeptical, but it really is something that being able to identify like where in my body I'm feeling something, what chakra it aligns with, it does give a lot of information about why something is coming up. So I guess, yeah, I'll tout up the woo-woo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefit to it.
There is a lot of
learning about this stuff.
There really, really is. And you don't have to assign to it to benefit. And so we were talking about, with kinetically interacting with the body around the wise mind and the, oh boy, he's getting crazy. I might have to put him outside.
You're fine. I'm letting my cat in right now.
All the pets.
Yeah, I know.
All the pets. All the beauties of working from home.
I know. So the solar plexus, as it sounds like you guys already know, can really help engage physically with the energy of the body, and then also considering that as the wise mind that has all this wonderful deep knowledge that the body and the spirit is holding for us to tap into to make those difficult decisions. The wise mind helps us do.
Nice.
Yeah. Building off of that, I have kind of a side question that's coming up because admittedly, I have not done much yoga at all in my adult life. I did it a little bit as part of a class in high school, and I've done sound bath yoga, which is lovely. But for those of you who don't know what sound bath yoga is, all you do is lay there while there are gongs and other instruments played around you. It's very relaxing, but it's not, yoga postures or anything like that. So like, are there certain postures that people can do or exercises to like activate that solar plexus area and get in touch with it?
Yes, there are certain things that you can do. So one thing with yoga, and sometimes you'll see the things on the internet that say do this posture for this or do that posture for that. Yes, to a degree, you can do various postures that are going to interact with your various chakras. Most of the postures are going to interact with a lot of your chakras, right? Most of the postures are going to be a benefit. There are certain postures that are going to really engage the abdomen and engage that solar plexus. So there are things that you can do to strengthen that area of the body and engage and create heat there, because like when you're creating heat in the abdomen and in the solar plexus, that's going to be engaging that energy, growing that energy. Also, there's postures that you can do that press into the solar plexus that help those organs relax. So if you're, the solar plexus is very much engaged with the gut. So if you're doing things that can relax the gut, you're also engaging in the solar plexus. There are certain postures that can directly engage the solar plexus, but again, most yoga postures are going to engage all of the chakras on some level.
Gotcha. Nice.
There we go. I wrapped it up.
Well, yeah, now I'm trying to figure out how to get to my questions when my cat is insisting that I hold his face.
Yeah.
Yes, Jen, how many podcasts are you in, you silly beast? Well, so, I don't know, looking at a couple of things, you've covered some of the stuff we were talking about with sort of like, what if yoga isn't someone's thing? It sounds like there's still, like maybe the part of yoga that isn't someone's thing is the postures, or the, the stuff that we think of as stereotypical, and that there's a lot more depth and breadth to what yoga is and what it encompasses, and there's probably something there for everybody. If they may just be pushy against the label of it being yoga, but probably they're all right with doing stuff. But like, is there anything that you feel you struggle with about either DBT or yoga? Like things you wish were different about either one, or I don't know, anything like that. Is anything that you're like, this one's not my favorite skill or not my favorite thing, or these two don't mesh well? I don't know, any struggles you have. And one of the things we talk about a lot on the podcast, Michelle and I, is that people can kind of, I don't know, take a little bit of a buffet approach to DBT and, pick and choose what works best for them. Is that something that people can do with yoga too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because a lot of the people that come to me don't do yoga. So they may, yoga is not something that you have to do every single thing to have enormous benefits. And DBT as well, because some people are going to have a lot more challenges with their behavior than other people, right? So, and DBT can really help, as you guys know, change the behaviors that are really causing us a lot of harm in our lives. So if you're not someone that is engaging in those behaviors, yet may have panic attacks, may have serious anxiety, may have flashbacks, may have trauma issues, you can still benefit from DBT, but you may not have to do all of those strategies to derail impulsive or destructive behavior, right? So you would kind of pick and choose. So it would be the same with yoga. And regarding anything I wish would be different or didn't like, no. And all the work that, and everything that I've looked at with DBT and all the work I've done with it and the group, and also everything I've studied in yoga, I love them. I love them both because they just work very succinctly. Like DBT just builds, right? And you just got these strategies and you keep building and you keep building and you keep building, and they're all useful. I mean, not all people are going to benefit from every single little piece, but they're all like these wonderful, useful strategies. Even if you only need to use them in like a more like watered down way, like you're not someone that has self-harm behavior, those strategies that manage self-harm behavior can still be useful.
Yeah. No, I guess I know we've had some people that complain about how many acronyms there are in DBT.
Oh, it's awful. I guess that part. But I think so. What I guess if I'm thinking about it at that level, I didn't even think about the acronyms. So I think I would change the name. I would change the name to something that people could really understand. Because well, when I say dialectical behavior therapy, people are like, "What?" And they don't really, especially if it's a teenager, they're like, I don't even want to say it half the time, because they are like, I lose them at what are you talking about? And it sounds overwhelming. It sounds very difficult. It sounds like, oh my gosh, this is going to be some really intense therapy. And no. so I usually do a disclaimer of it sounds a lot more complicated than it is. And it sounds a lot more difficult than it is. It's just a really big name for something that was based out of Zen Buddhism that is going to help. Right?
Yeah,
so
I like that.
So I guess if I was going to pick something, the strategies of DBT, no. I have no quandaries with those. With the name, yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, and something for myself with yoga, which is what I really like that you use the term like watered down yoga, because and I've mentioned this before on the podcast that for me, when it comes to like moving my body or, exercise, if we want to use kind of that term that I enjoy, I personally really like more like active, upbeat, like Zumba and that kind of thing. So for myself and maybe for other listeners, like one of the things that I think has maybe been a barrier to me getting more into yoga is like, okay, so to do yoga, this is the idea that I have in my mind. Maybe you can debunk this for me a little bit, but like I have this idea of like, okay, so I need to find peace and quiet, and I need to put out my mat, and I need to be able to like create this Zen place for myself in order to do yoga. And sometimes that just feels unattainable in the busyness of life. And, Kate and I talk a lot about with mindfulness, how, yes, one way mindfulness can look is meditation. It can look like you sit, you close your eyes, all of that. But is there, and already with how you've been talking, I can kind of already sense that the answer to this is probably yes, but just, bringing in these principles of yoga as we're going through day-to-day life a little bit more, so that someone's not feeling like, oh, in order to do yoga, I have to find, 30 minutes of undivided time every evening and that kind of a thing. Like, how can it just be even more accessible than people might think that it is at first glance?
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's what a lot of people think. And the only thing that comes into many people's minds is postures and vinyasa flows, which is what those flows you see in the classes, and people pretzelizing themselves. And I'm like, no. So I live yoga. It's just my life. And I'm definitely not practicing postures all day long. So there's all these different types of yoga, one being karma yoga. So karma yoga is basically creating good karma. What is that? Being kind to people is practicing yoga. So you're practicing yoga, you're being kind to people. Oh, guess what? You are practicing yoga right now. Another part of yoga is creating a sattvic environment, which is Sanskrit for sacred, for a loved environment. So if you go out in your garden and you're creating this really nice garden, well, guess what? You're practicing yoga. You are creating a sattvic environment, and you're creating this really wonderful sacred space for yourself. So, and does that space have to be quiet? No. When I was in yoga teacher school, my teacher, his name is Krishna, called us householders. So we're not going to be these, yogis off in the caves of India somewhere. Like, that's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. We have families, we have pets, we have lives and jobs and blah, blah, blah. They don't. So there's no way for me to be like that. I can be a householder, which is someone that integrates all of my life with living these traditions, right? A huge foundation of yoga is practicing compassion and acceptance. That sounds a little like DBT. So am I practicing that? Oh, guess what? You're practicing yoga. Asana is just an eighth of yoga. So that is just this little tiny piece that is super, super beneficial. There's so much else that it offers that that people just don't know about. There just hasn't been a lot of, there's no publicity on it, or no, you don't get that in class. Like when you go to class, a lot of times you don't get teachers talking about other ways to integrate yoga into your life besides just coming to the class and meditating.
Yeah. That's
is
amazing.
That's
I'm
super
so
informative
glad.
to me.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, I did not know about all those different aspects of yoga because it really does seem like so much emphasis is placed on the physical aspect of it and learning, postures and poses and all of this. And so to hear that there's so much more, that's amazing. And it does really help me more fully understand where there is overlap and crossover between yoga and DBT, just knowing those other pieces of it. So that's awesome. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share? Anything else that we haven't asked you yet that you want to know about?
I'm thinking about one of my favorite things of yoga that really integrates well with DBT is the practice of nonviolence. So people hear the word nonviolence and they're thinking immediately violence, like physical violence. And the thing is that what we forget is that horrible thoughts towards ourselves are also very violent. And in yoga, nonviolence is practicing, it is practicing nonviolence towards the world around us. It is also practicing nonviolence towards the self. And that means nonviolence as in respecting the body, so I'm not going to injure the body, because I'm going to practice compassion and love towards the physical body. And then also nonviolence of mind. So what am I thinking about myself? What are the thoughts that I'm having about myself? Am I giving myself plenty of love and compassion, or am I using violence against myself? So that's a huge part of what I do a lot with people, because we are violent towards ourselves in our minds. And we are so, we lack compassion for ourselves to like the nth degree. And DBT promotes compassion. That's what it's all about, really. The baseline of it is, how do I create compassion in myself so that I can live the best life that I can live, enjoy my life, and feel love towards myself and towards other people, without this intense reactivity, without this impulsivity that's causing so many problems in my life. And that's it. Nonviolence is one of those little aspects of yoga that really captures a lot of that. And I like to bring that up because it really points out that don't judge the book by its cover, right? Because it says nonviolence, that's what we're hearing, but it's such a huge practice, and it's not just applied outward to the physical, to our physical world. And that's, looking at yoga in very much the same way. It's so much more to it, that can be such an enormous benefit. And if you are someone that really enjoys DBT, you're probably going to get a lot out of yoga, whether you choose to practice the asana or not.
I love that, because now I think that my whole mantra of quit being a dick to yourself is just me telling people to practice yoga.
Yes!
That's one of the things I tell people all the time. Quit being a dick to yourself.
Yes!
Yep.
Yes.
So I like that. New ways to think about stuff.
Yeah.
You are practicing
love
yoga all the time, and you don't even know it. Don't even know.
Don't even know it. Something new every day. I love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, I think we're about there to wrap some things up. So I would really encourage, listeners, if you're interested in learning more about Sarah or working with her, her website is wholehealthcollab.com. Whole health being, WHOLE and then HEALTH. I feel like I'm out of spelling bee. And collab is COLLAB.com. We'll post it in the Facebook group so you guys can check her out a little bit more. And Sarah, something that we do at the end of every group, we get, and you said it earlier too, you put homework in air quotes when talking about things you tell your clients to do. We also put homework in air quotes a little bit, but we give people something to work on each week if they'd like. And yeah, maybe there's some stuff you can send Kate and I's way about just like, I don't know, Yoga 101, like starting resources or websites that people could look into if they want to learn more, or maybe some more information on some of the exercises or processes you were talking about the solar plexus. That could be some stuff that could be really interesting for us to post to the Facebook group as homework potentially for this week.
All right, so now that Michelle has talked about homework, Sarah, just so you know, we do a segment that we call awkward self-promotion, because it's awkward.
It's awkward.
So what that entails is, hey, if you feel like supporting the podcast, please feel free to go to our Patreon, which is www.patreon.com/dbtandme. Speaking of, a big shout out to a new Patreon that we have named Liv. Thank you, Liv.
Thank you, Liv.
So if anybody wants to join Liv and get a shout out on the podcast, please go ahead and do that. We have our Etsy shop. You can go to Etsy and just search for DBT and me. Michelle is very creative and has definitely she has new stuff up there fairly regularly. And I know there's sweatshirts now for the fall weather, so that's exciting. Please give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts if that's how you listen to us. And last but never least, email us dbtandmepodcast@gmail.com because we love getting emails from you folks. So,
We do.
normally, as everyone knows, I lead our closing moments on our episodes, but considering we have a guest today, and we have a guest who is familiar with practices such as meditation and visualization and things like that, I thought I'd hand it over to Sarah to lead our closing moment today. So whatever you want to lead us in, Sarah, we're here with you. And then just let us know when we're done and we'll all say goodbye. So.
Okay, so closing moments. Everyone taking a deep breath in and letting it out. We'll do some very simple box breathing. Breathing in for a count of 4. In, 2, 3, 4. And hold for 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold out for 4. 2, 3, 4. Let's do that one more time. This box breathing. Breathe in for 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold in for 4. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out for 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold out for 4. 2, 3, 4. And allowing the body to return to typical breathing. Allowing the air to naturally come into the lungs and leave the lungs. Just take a brief moment to listen to the breath as it moves in and out of your body. Lift the shoulders up with an inhale, up to the ears. Inhaling, and on the exhale, the shoulders come back and down. Exhale. Inhale the shoulders up to the ears. Hold them there just for a moment. And exhale them back and down. And now release and breathe. Notice any differences in your shoulders. Notice if there's tension still there. Scan the body now, beginning from the toes. Scanning quietly, looking for places that hold tension or pain. The feet, scanning the calves and the knees. The legs, the thighs, the lower abdomen, the middle abdomen, the gut area. Breathing in, breathing out. Scanning the chest, the back, shoulders, arms, hands and fingers. Where are you holding tension today? The throat, jaw, back of the neck or the scalp, eyes, forehead. Breathe in and breathe out. You have scanned the body and just taken a look at the body. Notice where it is that you are holding most of your tension. And focus on that area of your body. Bring your mind there. And for just a moment, imagine that there is a color there. The first color that pops into your mind. There is a color, a light in that place in your body that hurts. What does that light feel like to you? Breathing in, breathing out. Imagine that that light is beginning to grow warm. And it is beginning to become safe and soft. Wherever that part of your body is that hurts, this light is growing. Breathing in, breathing out. The light is growing. Warm and becoming more and more soft and soothing. The color of the light may stay the same, or perhaps it is changing as it becomes more soothing, warm and safe. Breathing in, breathing out. This light continues to grow. Safer, softer. Allow the tongue to drop away from the roof of the mouth. Cheeks become soft and easy. The eyes release. And all the lines disappear from the forehead. The face is totally at ease. Breathe in. Breathe out. Notice any changes in the body. Notice any changes in the mind. Allowing that light to stay as long as it needs to. Bringing it back whenever you need it. It is totally safe, warm and soft. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last inhale. Last exhale. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
To learn more about us and the DBT skills we're teaching each week, join our Facebook group. Simply log in